Hello, everyone. My name is Ryan Cam, and welcome back to the Reiner Project. We're covering all of the directed films of the late great Rob Reiner. Unfortunate circumstances have led to us saying, let's cover the works of one of the great directors of all time. A couple weeks ago, we covered This is Spinal Tap, and now we're coming to this, Russell. This is one in a career of great movies, this is one that almost just goes completely under the radar. Like, no one talks about this one, sadly.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of crazy because it's definitely, right up there when you think of like those types of films from the 80s, those types of like high school finding yourself type films. Yeah, this one just, no one ever talks about this film.
Yes, and we'll talk all about that coming up right now. Let's get into it. This is The Sure Thing.
The Sure Thing.
This was released in 1985, starred John Cusack, Daphne Zuniga, Anthony Edwards, Tim Robbins, yes, that Tim Robbins, and others. And it tells the story of a guy named Gibb, played by Cusack, who is a freshman at UCLA and does not take school seriously in the slightest. To help his sagging English grade, he enlists the tutorage of Allison, played by Daphne Zuniga. She doesn't like him one bit, but through ruthless, pathetic aggression, I guess, he ends up getting in as a tutorage with her. However, over Christmas break, they're both going to LA, and so they end up traveling together and developing feelings. So, Russell, had you ever seen this one before? This was my first time.
Yeah, this was my first time as well. No, I hadn't seen it prior to this.
It's a shame, too, because it's like Rob Reiner's career is largely seen as great, but it's like this is Spinal Tap, and then it's immediately leapfrogged, it being Sure Thing, leapfrogged over that to getting to straight to Stand By Me, which is like the next movie after this.
Yeah.
I mean, Stand By Me, even though I have not seen it yet, I will be to cover for this, but I can recognize that it is seen as a classic. So I get the reputation of it all, but you would think that one of the biggest, like John Cusack's big starring role would got more of a spotlight, but I guess not.
Yeah, it's kind of crazy when you think about that because, like I said, a lot of these movies kind of get under the radar because you have John Hughes films in the early 80s too, so everyone's talking, you got Breakfast Club, you got Pretty in Pink, you got 16 Candles. You think of those types of films obviously with like or even with like, speaking of another castmate from Stand By Me, you have Corey Feldman films like License to Drive and all those other films where you see those movies kind of overshadow Reiner's attempt here, which is kind of crazy because, like I said, this falls into that cheese of the 80s. Like, it has everything in it that all these other films do, and it's really never spoken about. It's kind of crazy.
Yes, and I'm sure, like, speaking of Hughes, this is the big not directorial vehicle, but the big starring vehicle for John Cusack. He had been in 16 Candles before this, but this was his first big starring role. And he would go on to have a long career, still going, so he's still acting and all that. But this is his big coming out. And I thought that for this character, I thought he did a great job. I feel like you start off, you're like, I'm not gonna like you, am I? But over the course of the movie, he starts to grow on you, and I liked that quite a bit. But it got pretty rough at the beginning there. Maybe it was just me.
No, I get it. It takes a while to get its footing. I think once it starts moving, though, it moves. John Cusack's character is kind of like you kind of just can't really stand him. Almost kind of reminds me of like Miles Teller's character in like The Spectacular Now, where he's just like a party animal, doesn't take things seriously. And it takes a girl to kind of like really change his way of life and stuff like that. So I think, you have a lot of character growth in these types of films, and yeah, this one's no exception to the rule. But yeah, Cusack does a really great job. You can really see why his career obviously continued after this film because, I think he's, definitely a bankable actor.
One of my favorite scenes is at the pool where Allison is swimming, and he's painting this big old doomsday scenario. Is like, well, what if I fail this? Then I start doing this, and it's all just downhill from there. Like, you can't even save me from drowning, and he jumps into the pool. Like,
Yeah.
I thought that was kind of fun, and then ultimately she just relents and be like, Friday night, be there or be square. And I like that. And then
Yeah.
Allison Allison's played by Daphne Zuniga, who I'll always know as Princess Vespa from Spaceballs. She, of course, would be in more things than that, of course. But it to me, like, she's always Princess Vespa. Like, that's who she is to me. And there's a couple things here where I see it and I'm just like quoting Spaceballs things in my head where she's got her bags on the side of the road. And I'm like, I wonder if Lone Star told her take only what you need to survive. And she packed a big old like hair dryer.
Yeah. Yeah, it's crazy that a lot of like no name actors and actresses at the time. Obviously, and Tim Robbins really brief cameo, not even in it very long, and then even Anthony Edwards, you don't really see much of him. You see him a little bit in the beginning, and then he dips out because he's in California at the time, and then you see him a little bit at the end, but you really don't see him too much either.
No, but Tim Robbins does appear, and like his role is very brief, but it is largely pretty memorable seeing show tunes with his significant other, and then they just fly off the rails. It's great. And
Yeah,
Anthony Edwards would go on to have larger fame a few years later as Goose in Top Gun, so he would go on to do big things.
yeah,
So there's just like I'm sure at the time you're like, who? But over time, you just look at it and you go, oh yeah, well these people like are big names, but back then they weren't. So this was
yeah,
like their big coming out, if you will. And I think Rob Reiner was, I think maybe other than Francis Ford Coppola, one of the best at like spotting talent. Because you look at this, you look at Stand By Me, you look at Princess Bride. All of those actors in those movies still have careers in no small part because of him.
yeah. I mean, for sure. I mean, he definitely has an eye for talent. Um, you can even say John Hughes. You could tie him in it too, because a lot of those actors and actresses in his works and stuff like that would have careers later on as well. So yeah, definitely had an eye for talent.
And then the movie is pretty much split into two halves. You got the first half where it's at the school, and then it's the second half where it's the big drive to California. And it pretty much goes badly from the start. Like these people are at each other's throats, but then just over the sheer course of adversity makes for strange bedfellows, they begin to get feelings for each other. And Gibb gets in a few heroic moments, like in a moment that you would never see done today, where Allison gets a ride from just
Oh yeah,
the creepy driver, like every
yeah,
creepy driver you could ever imagine. He sneaks in and he's like, "Oh, you think I'm crazy? I'll show you crazy!" And just like that great moment there, and then like saves her by out crazying the crazy guy. I liked that quite a lot, and just you see their evolution over the course.
that's my dog story. It's hilarious. Yeah, it's definitely like weird. It's super unnerving. Like those uncomfortable scenes sometimes that you see in movies, and you're like, they would never do this now.
No.
But he ends up saving the day, saves her from this creepy truck driver. You can only imagine, obviously, if he didn't like hop in the back, what would have happened? That's completely crazy to even think about that. You know what I mean? But yeah, definitely. You can see how some of these, films age. Like when you think about it now, you're like, man, they would never do that now.
I mean, it's 85. You got to
Yeah,
remember it was 40 years ago.
yeah,
So you got to remember like what it was like back then, and you have to be cognizant of the context
yeah,
and not think about it too much. That's just how it was back then. I mean, like at the big ending of the film where like Anthony Edwards pretty much tells the sure thing, the girl, that like Cusack's character is gay and a virgin, and
yeah,
I'm just like, yep, you would never do that today, I'll tell you what.
yeah. There's so much things that you could get away with back then. But it is kind of funny how he uses that as bait for her to like be interested in Gibbs' character. I think that's kind of funny.
Yes, but one of the big joys of the film is you see just how Gibb changes, but also Allison changes. How
Yeah,
they just they're two complete opposites in terms of personality, but then they begin to mix, and they just become. It's like the ending in Demolition Man, where it's like you need to get dirty and you need to get a lot more clean,
Yeah.
and the rest, you'll figure it out. It's like Allison, like as soon as she meets her boyfriend, she just becomes sick of him. Like this guy's a stiff. I don't want to be around him. And it's
Yeah.
like he's like, let's go to a party and drink, which would never happen today. Like, who would want that? Like, who wants to play gin rummy? Like, I like
Yeah.
gin rummy. I played that, but for the purposes of the movie, I get where she's coming from.
Yeah, he's just really boring. You could always play card games and drinking games as like as a group. You know what I mean? So, definitely wouldn't be that type of setting now. Like his character, Allison's boyfriend, is just really boring. You could tell that this guy is going to be a lawyer because he's just very like uptight and just very, serious about everything and just feels like he has his whole life planned out. And Allison really just kind of like, yeah, I don't know if I really want to do this. And like she has she has reservations about, you know, dating him, continuing to date him now, So a lot of character growth for both of them.
Yeah, and the boyfriend was played by Boyd Gaines, who would later win not one, not two, not three, but four Tony Awards. So he didn't have a
Oh,
huge film career, but his Broadway career, he was pretty much like the Katharine Hepburn. Like he
jeez,
just
yeah.
cleaned house. And he's good in his few scenes, but you think he's
Yeah.
good here, he's even better on the stage.
Yeah, that's crazy. Yeah, because you could see almost reminds me of the character from the beginning of like Planes, Trains, and Automobiles, the one that he tries to solicit to get his cab, and he goes, "Oh yeah, he's like close enough. I'm a lawyer, or I'm an attorney or whatever," and he pays him the money to get into the cab, and that's when John Candy's character obviously takes the cab. He kind of reminds me of like he'd be like that type of character. You know what I mean? Like just real
I can
stiff like
see
that.
that.
Yeah,
I can see that, yes. And I don't know. Just my big thing is like, why is this a bit obscure? I did a little bit of digging. There is a Blu-ray release of it in 2023. There was a re-release, so it's not like it's completely gone.
yeah,
But for this, like on streaming, it's non-existent. I had to like watch it on Russian YouTube. Like it was in English, so it was fine. But
yeah.
it's like you either rent it on YouTube or like that's your only option. You would think with Rob Reiner's unfortunate passing,
They
these would
would
be a
want to.
little bit more
Yeah.
available. And this was released by Monument Pictures and Embassy Films, and so I'm not sure if it's a rights issue. It probably is a rights issue. But
Yeah.
it's strange because it's like up Spinal Tap, like Spinal Tap, Stand By Me, and like this just gets leapfrogged. And for some reasons I get it, but in other reasons I'm like, why? Like, why
Yeah.
are we overlooking this?
Yeah, for sure. Like you said, you think with his unfortunate untimely death, like you would showcase his works completely. You would want to get it out there for other people to actually like you and I obviously to watch this type of film that you really wouldn't get eyes on. Obviously, it's harder to get eyes on a film like this because it's just harder to find. You think this would be on Prime, and with all of his other works. But yeah, it was crazy that it had to go. We had to go into the dark web in order to to find the film. But we
Yeah.
got to watch it, and yeah,
One more fun fact before we take off is that one of the producers of this was a guy by the name of Henry Winkler, who everyone knows as the principal from Scream. Oh, and some show called Happy Days. I'm sure some of you out there have seen it.
and the coach from the Water Boy.
And the music teacher from Here Comes the Boom.
There we go.
But I just thought the Fonz producing this was just fascinating fact. But
Yeah.
for my score, I'm going to give this a great rating. It's not one of Reiner's best, but it certainly deserves more attention than what it's getting. Overlooked and underrated for sure. This one.
Yeah, I really enjoyed it. It's my cup of tea. I always like these cheesy romantic films. So yeah, I liked it. It's definitely rewatchable, and definitely really catapults to careers of obviously John Cusack's and others, but more importantly, John Cusack, obviously, because, I think his work obviously has really just transcended and just to that whole longevity of acting for 40 years. So, but yeah, I really enjoyed it. Yeah, definitely check this one out if you guys can.
But I pass it off to all of you. What did you think of the film? If you have seen it, let us know in the comments. We'd love to read what you have to say. And in 2 weeks' time, Russell, you and I will be returning to this, and we'll be taking a look at, well, for my first time anyway, Stand By Me. And this is the beginning of the true golden age of Rob Reiner, because after Stand By Me, it's Princess Bride, When Harry Met Sally, Misery, and A Few Good Men, back to back to back to back. No one had a better late 80s, early 90s than Rob Reiner.
Yeah, that's a heavy hitter with the four. I saw Stand By Me a long time. Like, again, it's one of those ones I don't really remember, so that'll be practically a first watch. And honestly, I've never seen A Few Good Men, so a little fun fact as well, which is crazy because it's so quoted, has so much acting talent in it. And it's just one of the ones I just never saw.
Don't worry, I've never seen it either, even
Same.
though like you can't handle the truth.
Exactly, it's everywhere, and I've just never seen it.
Yes.
No.
But I pass it off to all of you. Let us know in the comments. Love to read what you have to say. Russell, it's a privilege to do this with you every week. Tell the people where they can find you.
Absolutely. Always like chatting film. But yeah, you guys can find us Notorious by Chance. We just released our latest episode, the top 20 performances of 2025. So check that out. Our episode on Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid, we're going to be filming this week. And also we have Iron Man 2 on the list for our adventure to Avengers, not Avengers Endgame, Avengers Doomsday. Or no, Adventures Doomsday, right? Yeah. And so catch that. And you guys can find us Notorious by Chance on YouTube. He still puts out stuff with football. Obviously, the Super Bowl this weekend, they're going to be talking about that. You guys can find us at NBC Podcast on TikTok and on X as well.
Yep, all those links down below. Subscribe to them over there. As far as this channel goes, 2 weeks' time is Stand By Me, but next week we return to the horror movie Iceberg, and we finally, after much anticipation, dive into VHS by taking a look at 2012's VHS. But for Russell, my name is Ryan Cam. We will see you all in the next one. Y'all take care.